But through the process that I'm doing, which is a process similar to what you're doing, if not the same, my stem cells now are a copy of a 1 to 3 year old stem cell. Now, for me, that's all I needed to know.
Right.
But I don't wake up in the morning sucking my thumb.
Well, if you do, you don't need to tell us.
Live ready, reach higher, chase the sky, beyond thinking, grow rich, you'll learn to fly. With every step
Welcome to the Live Ready podcast, Beyond Think and Grow Rich, with your host, me, David R. Ibarra. Today I have a special guest, Michael Smith. And I want to set this up a little bit. Here at the Live Ready Institute and podcast, we believe in 10 principles that we live our lives by, and that we help the leaders, executives, and everyday people learn to be in complete control of your thoughts so you can achieve a happiness consciousness. And the 8th principle is sound health. And that's why we wanted Michael to be on our program. He has a similar belief, if not the same, that all the money in the world, all the achievement in the world, all the compensation won't matter if you don't have sound health. And so, Michael, tell us a little bit about the company that you're involved in, and stem cells, Peak Stem Cells. And as you know, I've done a lot of research, and probably one of the oldest individuals in years, 33 years, of getting a stem cell treatment of some kind. And finally, when it was perfected, I think about 15 years ago, I've been taking human stem cells 3 times a year at my visit at the clinic I am connected to only as a patient, BioAdvantage Medical Center in Tijuana, Mexico. Tell us about yours.
Well, thank you. And first of all, it's a real honor to be here and to be with the OG of biohacking and longevity. And may I say, you look so much better than all those other guys that are out there doing what they're doing. So thank you for being the living, breathing example of...
I think what Michael's referring to is my age of 74 years old.
Well, that you've been doing this for 30 years. I mean,
Right.
A lot of people haven't even heard about these technologies yet,
Yeah.
and what's available. And you know, the chapter on sound health was my favorite chapter in the book, of course. Mm-hmm. And it's just so amazing what the level of health that people can attain to, especially with the level of wealth. There's a concept that I call get wealthy, when you combine wealth and health, because your wealth is your health and your health is your wealth. But the level of health that you can obtain to can not only extend your life, but save your life. And so for people to learn about the technologies and how to invest in their health, and to realize that force multiplier, that the sooner they start, the better off they are.
You know, Michael, it's really interesting that we work with a lot of businesses, and the personal folks that I coach in companies, every one of them are incredibly successful before they ever start with me. But they show up and I ask them, well, what is it that you're after? And most of the time it's around how is it that I grow my capital or protect it. And then we work into what is the bigger benefit is you can spend all your life making a lot of money and then spend the last quarter of your life spending it trying to get well because you didn't concentrate on sound health or happiness consciousness. Tell us about Utah now is a special state, and I believe it's the first state in the United States that has finally approved human stem cells to be used by folks that are after a level of health that they can work longer, slow aging, and it is believed that my doctor has indicated for me 33 years ago that if I wanted to, I could work to age 90 and I will look, act, and appear like 65. And I thought, well, why not? Why not get to a point in your age that you've gained wisdom, but healthy enough to live the fourth quarter of your life where you create legacy. And legacy is created by passing on what you know to others so they can achieve it in a shorter period of time than yourself. Tell us about your journey. And first I want you to start with why you got into it. I know that you lost someone close to you, and they were young, and that's planted a seed that it was a question that just stayed with you. Tell us about that story.
Thank you. I'd love to. And it's a heartbreaking story that I lost my brother 6 years ago now. I've become my older brother's older brother. He was 52 at the time. And you know, we all have this fear of always keeping our cell phone with us just in case that call comes. And that particular day, May 12th, 2020, I had gone to the grocery store and left my cell phone on my desk. And my sister called my girlfriend's phone and immediately heard in her voice, she said, "What's wrong?" And she handed me the phone. And I heard my sister on the other end, and two of my sisters were on the call, and one said, "He doesn't know." And I said, "No what?" My father at the time was living in Finland, and he had recently had some health issues. I thought for sure I was going to hear that my father had passed. And she said, "Rick's dead." And I immediately, I've never experienced before, the energy from my legs, I dropped to my knees, and I couldn't believe, I couldn't comprehend what I was hearing. And I said, "You can't argue with death," but I argued. And I said, "No." And I said, "What happened?" And she said, "He hit his head while mountain biking." And I said, "Hit his head? That doesn't make any sense. He was wearing a helmet. Our whole family gathered." I said, "Where is he?" And they said, "He's on the pipeline trail." I didn't know where the pipeline trail is, up in the avenues here. And I jumped in the car, picked up my sons on the way. I said, "We're going to go find him, going to see what's going on." You know, just the chaos of, you know, not even comprehending what was going on or arguing with this can't be. I'm sure he's going to be okay. Yeah. You know, and we all were there. There was so much love. So many people came together. And you know, he was a World Cup athlete. He was on the World Cup ski team. He was the first American to successfully land a triple backflip with a quadruple twist in the World Cup competition. You know,
wow.
Most people don't do skiing upside down and backwards. You know, that's
balance.
That's my brother. You know, and you know, we all waited for the first responders to bring his body down from the trail. They'd close the trail down, and you know, later found out that when he collapsed, there's a thoracic ICU nurse that immediately started working on him and trying to revive him, and as well as a whiffer, a wilderness first responder that was there, and others that had tried to save him. His autopsy a month later revealed that it wasn't that he hit his head, that his coronary arteries were 80 to 95% stenosis. He had had a cardiovascular event. That didn't make any sense either. You know, and you know, he was out riding with one of his sons and his son's friends at the time, and I knew one of the first responders, one of the firefighters that showed up. He said that he'd seen a lot of things in his lifetime, but he had to step away, seeing a father and a son together at the passing, and you know, because every one of those guys had kids that could imagine that, you know, that could have been me. You know, all of us think that death is real, but it is never going to happen to me. We all think we're going to live forever. We're the ones that are immortal, and you know, never had I experienced grief like I had, and immediately when I found out about the real cause of his death, thought, well, good thing I'm not related to him. Wait, I did the math. I am related to him, and I had the exact same biomarkers as his, and I was in the same ski tracks, going down the same path as he was. So
Right.
I had a background in growing up, went to the University of Utah and studied behavioral science and health. Always taking care of myself. My brother wasn't overweight. He was athletic. He's what they call skinny fat. You know that most people have no idea what their cardiovascular risk is. The number one killer of humans, and both men and women in the U.S., worldwide as well.
You know, it's interesting. When I met Dr. Calzada, as you've read in the story, I didn't meet Dr. Calzada because I wanted to do something as far as a procedure. I had a leader that worked with me, Dennis, that had been diagnosed and melanoma cancer metastasized in his brain, and he was giving 2 months to 6 months to live, and he wanted to go down and try to see if Dr. Calzada could help him. He did. He told me he could extend his life for 2 years, be perfect, and it turned out 28 months. Then he would it would grow, and he'd wake up one morning paralyzed, and then his life would end 3 months later. It happened just almost identical. But the doctor called me in and told me, I want to talk to you. And I said, well, I'm his driver. I'm not here. I was thinking, like, what do you want to see me for? You're not going to get any money from me.
Right.
Is what, you know. And he said, no, come in here. And he pointed out, he says, take off your, how long have your feet been cold? And I said, my feet are not cold. Take off your shoes. I said, I'm his driver. Take off your shoes. I'm not charging you anything. Take off your shoes. Just, pamper me. Just do it, please. So I take off my shoes, and I had 2 pair of socks on. He said, why do you have 2 pair of socks on? I said, well, my feet are cold. And he said, look, I've noticed something, that what's your triglyceride count? It's high, isn't it? I said, it's 535. What's your cholesterol? 220. He says, you will have a major heart attack within 2 years. You may not survive. Now, what I want you to do is go back to Salt Lake, where you live. There's 3 clinics that do chelation. And what most people don't know, and I'm sure it's connected to the same experience your brother had going on and didn't know, that the arteries over time have plaque buildup until they clog, a piece breaks off, and it causes a heart attack that can. And so I thought, I went, did 40 treatments, went to my doctor. My triglyceride count went to 140, and my cholesterol 182. My doctor in Salt Lake City could not believe it. But you're right. People don't know. You don't have to be overweight to have something going on in your body. And skinny fat, as you called it.
The number one sign that most people have of heart disease, first sign or symptom, is death. That 40% of people don't survive their first event. All the studies are based on people who survived their first event. And it's
so this caused you to do what? You went to the university. You were thinking about it. You found out. Then what?
So I knew of Dean Ornish. I went to Singularity University with Peter Diamandis, and Dean Ornish was one of our faculty, and he had talked about how he could undo it. There's books on stop, prevent, reverse heart disease. I read all of the books from Dean Ornish, T. Caldwell Campbell, the China study, the Michael Greger, How Not to Die, and all of the books recommended a whole food plant-based diet, and I didn't know what that was. And I read another book that a friend of mine wrote called Ancient Secrets of a Master Healer. And one of the things I loved in your book was that Dr. Calzada studied the herbs and natural healing, and he's doing things that aren't done in traditional Western medicine. And my friend who had written this book, they have a detox, and detoxing is so important for the body, and it's a 30-day mung bean detox. And I thought, that sounds terrible. but I'll do it. My life depended on it. When you get a wake-up call like that, my brother's 2.5 years older than me, so the clock was ticking. And in 30 days, my cholesterol was 269, which was my brother's was 270. It dropped to 139. I reversed every cardiovascular risk factor, my triglycerides, my high sensitive C-reactive protein. I learned that the tests that Western medicine does, just a primary care doctor, are not sufficient for actually ascertaining what your risk is. My doctor asked me, well, what did you do? Right. He wanted to put me on a statin. And I said, well, you're the doctor. Why didn't you tell me to do what I did?
Yeah. I didn't tell him what I did. I just said it must be a miracle, because they were so negative about going to any homeopathic approach or Eastern or anything other than Western medicine. If it got in your record, I found out that it affected your ability to get rates on health care and a life insurance.
That's right. So our charts are filled with misinformation or half-truths.
So then what happened?
So in 30 days, I was feeling like a completely different person and said, I want to spend the rest of my life saving lives. My brother left 6 children, ages 9 to 24 at the time. They're all 6 years older now. One daughter with Down syndrome. And they miss him every day. I miss him every day. And, Hippocrates said, let your food be your medicine and your medicine be your food. We are made of the stuff we put in us.
Right.
And there's so much information about which diet is best, and follow the Mediterranean diet, follow the carnivore diet, and everyone has their different ideas about what people should do. And certainly the lifestyle that is that you follow, that you're willing to do, it doesn't help to anyone to do, have some idea of what they're not willing to do. And so really asking someone, what are you willing to do? And I like to think of eating the rainbow. And the sunlight diet is what I call it, is to get as much sunlight as possible into your food. And fruits and vegetables are basically photovoltaic batteries that absorb the photons from the sun, and to get the full spectrum of different colors of fruits and vegetables. And if you eat meats, get the highest quality protein that you can, even though mung beans have 45 grams of protein per cup. It's like having a chicken breast. And there's great plant-based protein too, but whatever it is that people choose to follow for eating the way that their body responds. I love that you talk about in the book that once you start eating clean, your body will tell you what's going on.
It's interesting for me, as you know, I eat completely organic, gluten-free when possible, and if it's not possible, I'll have a piece of bread if I wish. But you find you just don't wish to do that, and having the proper nutrients in the morning, 10 a snack, a meal, a snack, a meal, and then just some light protein before I go to bed, and my body is digesting, and then I use it to my knowing that my subconscious will work 24/7. I can ask the questions that I'm concerned about, that I haven't found the answers, and then I put my body to sleep and let it do its work. Don't eat sugar once a week, should I wish. If you have sugar within a 2-hour block, your immune system will look at it as attacking your body and will take care of the sugar. But if you have sugar all throughout the day, well, then it starts to store it. And I'm sure, so, depending, and people think eating clean means that you're depriving yourself from eating what you like. You can put down all the things you like, find out which ones absolutely aren't good for you, eliminate. 80% you can eat. It's the combinations and how you eat it to make. I weigh 168, and at 18, my last year of playing football, I weighed 168. It isn't necessary for you to lose 1 pound of muscle and replace it with 2 pounds of fat every year after 30. It's not necessary unless you choose it.
I love what you said about how you can outwork anyone at the gym too, outlifting.
I got up this morning at 5:30. I was in my oxygen chamber for 1 hour.
So good.
And then I worked out for 30 minutes. I have a individual that we interviewed on the podcast, DeMarco, who I have him coming in for 90 days to watch I know how to work out. And then I had DeMarco watch how I worked out, and I hadn't realized I had developed some bad habits: elbow too low, working out the wrong muscle, not having the elbow in, not having the hand right, just to correct some of the way I held it, where I put my elbow, change the routine. I had developed some bad habits. So getting rid of those habits, well worth having a workout fitness guru like DeMarco Bloom.
And to invest in your health, to have that kind of expertise, to make sure you make those minor adjustments so you don't risk an injury, and to set you back, keep you going towards your goals. And
life is great. We're going to take a moment and take a short break. A word from our sponsor. Yes, Our Kids Can. While you watch this short word from our sponsor, Yes, Our Kids Can, I want you to think about the principles that create success. 10 of them: thought, purpose, talent development, action, mindset. Think of we could get those in our subconscious of our kids from their earliest thoughts. Give it a watch.
At what age do you wish you had unlocked the principles that lead to success? Where do you think you'd be today if you had learned them as a child? Yes, Our Kids Can is a program developed at Harvard and tested in San Antonio's school systems, designed to give children of all backgrounds the opportunity to plant the seeds for future success, using learning techniques they understand and enjoy. Through engaging animated stories, fun sing-along songs, and interactive games, Yes, Our Kids Can teaches your child the empowering, success-driven principles needed to reach their full potential. Don't miss this opportunity to give your children the future they deserve. Yes, Our Kids Can is available now on the Apple App Store and Google Play. Sign up today and help make your child's dreams a reality.
Now, wasn't that something? Yes, Our Kids Can. Become a member as soon as you can and start downloading good things into your children's mind. Let's continue and go on to how did you come into now moving into doing this professionally, peak stem cells. Now that's new because it's new to Utah.
Yes, Utah passed legislation in 2024, the first state in the country to legalize these regenerative biologic treatments of stem cells for humans. And Florida's the other state that passed legislation last year. So
they did. So there's 2 now.
There's 2 states now. Mm-hmm. People can still go to Mexico or Panama or Costa Rica, but they can get it done
I will tell you
well.
this. Dr. Calzada is one of the foremost experts. And so, yes, I've been going for 33 years, and I will go another 16. And at the end of 16 will probably be the end of my life cycle, and I'll transition into what next. But that 16, it can be experienced with great health, and in that period, it's about relationships and experiences and transferring what you learned to others to create legacy. And I intend to use my last 16 years, the last quarter of my life and some overtime, perfectly. Now tell me about your business. Tell me about what you're doing here in Utah, because folks can now get it in Utah. They don't have to do what I do and travel to Mexico. They can do it here should they wish.
You know, it's really great to have an investment, to see your body as your greatest asset. You know, as you call it, a temple in your book, that it truly is the vehicle we experience life through. And most people have been doing maybe an annual doctor's visit. There they look at a few biomarkers, but there's so much more that is possible. And I got into stem cells about 5 years ago, and with a clinic in Park City, and then we started Peak Stem Cells. We're in Murray now, and this technology is the technology of life. These stem cells come from healthy C-section live births that have been screened for 3 generations for any malformities or genetic conditions. The mothers are screened with our Good Utah Clean Living, with no tattoos, no alcohol, no drug use, and they're the best stem cells.
Why was it no tattoos? Because I know there's a purpose. Why is it that you have somebody that doesn't have a tattoo? What was the purpose? Why would that have anything to do with their stem cells? Is there a reason?
Well, just putting the ink into your body adds some toxins to the system.
Right.
You know, I heard it said recently, the one thing we all have in common is microplastics. You know, and with the environment we live in, the world we live in, the pesticides that are on our food, we have so much toxicity.
And in Mexico with Dr. Calzada, they have the hospitals in Mexico City doing the same thing. But they are also only inviting a couple pregnancy. They interview them, they test them, they pay for the pregnancy, and then harvest from the umbilical cord the stem cells for the baby for life, but then the rest is shared with us. But they're also looking at someone who has had minimal vaccines or no vaccines.
The stem cells we have are pre-COVID, so there's no vaccine, which is great. The spike proteins that we still don't know the full effect of. There's a lot of people suffering with long COVID, which stem cells really help with, respiratory issues. I love to think of, there's no greater love than a mother for her child. As men, we'll never know what it's like to have another human being grow or gestate inside of us. And that women can do this is just amazing. And we're made of 50 trillion, 40 to 50 trillion, you know, give or take a trillion cells in the human body. But these basic building blocks, these undifferentiated cells, have the capacity to become any cell in the body. Just that alone is a miracle.
Now, when you say it that way, so the viewers can hear us, what it means is that when it's dripped into your bloodstream, it hasn't developed into a cell of any particular organ. It will gravitate to the part of your body where there is a need, and then becomes, whether it's the heart, whether it's the lungs, kidney, wherever the need is, that cell will go to. And typically they clean your body first through chelation, oxygenation, and what have you, to prepare it to receive these new stem cells.
That's right. And, you know, there's a term inflammaging that's become popular, that most people are inflamed from tip to stern, and that's what was going on with my brother, to have that inflammation, which comes from stress. And in your book, you talk about how only 3% of the population knows what they want. In my friend's book, he said 5% of people, 95% of people don't know what they want. 3% of people know what they want, but don't have the skills and tools to obtain it. 1% know what they want, but they destroy their health in the pursuit of getting it. And only 1%, the remaining 1%, actually know what they want, have the skills to obtain it, and maintain their health so they can actually enjoy it. You're clearly in the 1%.
Well, I tell you what, I'm focused on getting the most I can out of the experience of this trip here, life.
Yes.
And I believe the game of life, you either play it or you to win it or you lose it, and it doesn't matter. Tell me about how does somebody get more information about stem cell treatment, and if you would, what does it look like if somebody were to call you or the clinic that you represent, which I understand the doctor is?
Dr. Vikas Garg is our physician. He's double board certified in both pain and anesthesiology. He understands the complete body. And one of the things that we do is we first work with people on preparing their body for decreasing their inflammation.
Right.
You can increase the effectiveness of stem cells 2 and even 3 times their effectiveness by preparing your body, by detoxing, cleaning up before you receive them. They're not cheap. It's an investment in your health, as you know. But to get the best return on your investment is to really be committed to taking better care of your body than you would your car or your other
most people
assets.
take better care of their car than they do their body.
Right.
So somebody wants to look at getting, is it a program that you have? How
We have
does
a
it
number
work?
of different programs. So if they go to the website, peakstemcells.com, they can find us. You can inject stem cells right into the joint, knees, shoulders, backs, and they'll engraft in that area. You can also deliver them through an IV, and it's through it's called paracrine signaling, that the stem cells will home in on where they're needed. And that's through the inflammation markers, the cytokines that are being released. Prior to the stem cells, we can use a biologic called an exosome, which increases the paracrine signaling. So there's a clear signal saying, over here,
Right.
and to come to engraft in this area. And many times we don't know where the intelligence of the body is greater than all the medical schools and textbooks ever written. And when you give your body the tools of repair and regeneration, then it can do what no one may even know you needed.
Well, so somebody gets involved in the program, either they have an ache. For me, I had played football, had 4 knee surgeries. I couldn't run anymore, and I had to pop my knees in the morning before I could really start my day. I got the stem cells in my knees, and since that time, I've run 7 marathons. So for me, it works, but I did it intravenously as well. It was a combination of joints that ached and to deliver it to my body, because the stem cells rejuvenate every 90 days. So it becomes a copy of just what's your age. And it becomes a copy. In my case, I'm 74 years old, so my stem cells would be a copy of a 74-year-old cell. But through the process that I'm doing, which is a process similar to what you're doing, if not the same, my stem cells now are a copy of a 1 to 3-year-old stem cell. Now, for me, that's all I needed to know.
Right.
But I don't wake up in the morning sucking my thumb.
Well, if you do, you don't need to tell us. And there's so many new advances that are happening as well. And one of the treatments we have, we're very excited about, is it's for brain regeneration. And we can deliver exosomes, a specialized neural exosome, intranasally, for crossing the blood-brain barrier, and it decreases neural inflammation. It increases neurogenesis of growing new neurons and creating new.
So is it a nasal spray, or what is it?
It's done with a nasal sphenal catheter.
Uh-huh.
And the person lays back, tilts their head back, and then stays in that position for about 10 to 20 minutes as the stem cells are absorbed through the blood-brain barrier. and
I
people
haven't
feel
heard of that.
limitless.
I like that.
Yeah, they no longer lose the car keys. They have instant recall of names and vocabulary.
I've never had instant recall of names, so maybe I did. I should have started when I was 21. So somebody wants to get. Oh, do they get a hold of you? Is it a number they call? They want to look at. Is it a maintenance program? Is it a aches and pains?
So we have a program called Presentgevity, which is an adjunct to longevity.
Right.
Longevity is adding more years to your life. There people are out biohacking and buying all sorts of red light therapy beds, devices, and supplements.
Name them. I probably got them all in my gym. I've got the red light, the infrared, the ozone.
And you probably have a lot in the closet too. That you're like, well, I don't know if this one even works.
I'm going to try just about everything.
Yeah, well, and that's great. And Presentgevity is an adjunct to longevity. It's great to do all those things, but what's going to make the biggest difference now? And whether you have a short life or a long life, how do you have a full life? And the title of your book, Live Ready. To live now. My brother lived 52 years.
Right.
And yes, it's a tragedy he's gone. But if you could live one day fully present in 52 years, it's more than what most people actually do. We have so many distractions.
I liked when you were sharing that with me, because there is a difference to just simply be present.
Yes. Right. Yeah, it seems like it'd be the easiest thing to do.
So they could come in, get an evaluation. You'd show them whether it's 2-3 times a year, 1 time a year, or pain through a whom? Does the doctor see you?
Yes, the doctor sees them. We're developing a concept. I'm actually writing a book on this. It's called Get Wealthy, for how to invest in your health with your wealth, and at what level, because life isn't fair.
Right.
And the fair happens in the fall at the state fairgrounds, and that's about it.
Right.
But depending on your access to wealth depends on the amount you can invest. And not everyone has access to these technologies. And so depending, as a wealth advisor, people have their financial advisors that meets with them on a quarterly basis. Everyone should have a health advisor that meets with them on at least a biannual, if not quarterly basis, certainly more than annually. We start off with doing a true age, true health test that looks at their epigenetic markers for what their biological age is, both their ohmic age as well as their symphony age, as well as their tuned-in pace of aging. I love that you're aging at 2 to 3 years per decade, as you mentioned with Dr. Calzada, and that once you know where you're at, and most people are afraid, they don't want to know, but there's so much that can be done now. It used to be, don't look under the hood if you don't know how to fix the car, but there's so much that can be done. And whether you schedule a treatment of stem cells annually, biannually, quarterly, or if they're exosomes, they're secretomes, so many new biologics that have the growth factors, the different types of proteins in the cells that can reverse your age. My age went down 2.5 years in 6 months.
Yeah. Well, I did get tested, and I wasn't. I didn't test out at my true age. I was about 15 years younger on as the day and a half of the testing that you do up at the University of Utah. But in closing, tell our listeners how to get a hold of you.
If you go to peakstemcells.com, or they can email me at michael@peakstemcells.com, or call the number on the website, and we'd love to have them come in and to see what their goals are.
Perfect.
To see where they want to be. There's an idea of homeostasis, of just staying average. We have a concept called homeoptimus. What's the best you can be? We have stages of illness, of stage 1, 2, 3, 4 diseases. what's stage +1 health, stage 2, stage 3?
Well, I like to keep it simple. When just what you said real quickly in my mind says you have a choice, ordinary or extraordinary.
Amen.
Pick the second one. I'd like to give you a copy of my book, Live Ready, Beyond Think and Grow Rich. As many know, I'm one of the largest licensees. I'm actually the largest for Dr. Hill's work now in the world. And I'm a disciple of these principles, and I'll remove you. And this is my gift to you for being on our program.
Well, thank you so much. And can I just say one?
Sure.
I've listened to your book. I'm excited to go through it again. I love your story. I love that you say that you're a disciple of Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow Rich. I read his book growing up. Re-listening to his book, your book, and the updated stories that you have for the next generation and for the kids. I have 2 sons, and I've already sent your book to them. This is so important to get out to the rising generation, that there is hope, there's possibility, there's anything you want to create in this world, you can create.
Well, if you can think it, you can achieve it. So be careful of what you think.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Live ready, reach higher, chase the sky. Beyond think and grow rich, you'll learn to fly. With every step forward, the future